Sister Anita and the management and staff of Kaisar Darus Salam Academy here in Damansara in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And in no branch of knowledge is it more essential for us to become critical thinkers than in eschatology. You have to bring together a versatile scholarship in politics, in international politics, in economics, in international economics, in monetary economics, in law, a versatile scholarship in sociology, in psychology, a versatile scholarship in history, in the philosophy of history, a versatile scholarship in scriptures, and in the methodology for the study of scripture, the Quran, the Torah, the Zurur, and so on. And in addition to all of that, you've got to have something more. And you have to work for it. You've got to clean the glass of the lamp, which is in the heart. You've got to clean it. You've got to polish it. And then you've got to work. You can't sit down and expect that you're going to reap. You got to plant in order to reap. You got to work. You got to show metal. You got to show a backbone made of steel. You got to show courage. And then Allah will give you oil. So the lamp will have oil in it. And when the oil is there and the lamp's glass is clean, then one day the flame would be lit. They can't get it in Washington. All the think tanks that they have in London, they cannot penetrate the Quran. But if Allah blesses you to do so, then as events unfold in the world, and the critical mind, illumined with nur from Allah, now attempts to study, and now attempts to connect the dots. The angels couldn't do it. When Allah said to them, come on, tell me. They said, we have no knowledge. No, because they could not connect the dots. And then Allah gave it to Adam alayhi salam, connecting the dots of history insofar as our eschatology is concerned. And then Allah said to Adam alayhi salam, come on, explain to them. And then He explained to them. This is the historical process. And this is how we connect the dots of history. So we know what's coming at the end. It's not easy at all. And we pray that Allah may answer our dua, that He will bless the efforts of all those who now turn to the Quran sincerely. Most people don't have time for the Quran. The shopping mall takes up so much time. Yeah. Shopping is, a world of its own, shopping. And then, of course, there's all the traffic jam and so on. And so many things to occupy our time. We don't have time for the Quran anymore. Well, if you do not plant, you're not going to reap. وَأَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. And don't expect to plant for only one day of the week and expect to reap at the weekend. No. A lifetime of work before Allah says, okay, this servant has done the work, and then the door is open for knowledge. What is our eschatological view of the world today? That depends upon where we are located in the historical process. The historical process for us is one in which the establishment of a state with government and rule of law, in which Allah's law would be supreme. And that law came down to Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Moses, the Torah. More than anywhere else, it's the Torah, the law. Where that law will be supreme, that is at the heart of the historical process. When he said to the angels, I'm going to place on earth one who will be Khalifa. And they said, oh, are you going to place on earth this institution of Khilafah, which is going to cause so much fasad and so much bloodshed? This effort to establish a state which will rule with government, and where the law which comes from Allah will be applied, the supreme law. Because the angels knew, because Allah had said to them, that there is going to be a bogus Khilafah state. And that establishment of that bogus Khilafah state is going to take the historical process into fasad. And we saw the fasad commencing with Pax Britannica. That is our introduction to Islamic eschatology. We identify Pax Britannica in a particular context. And we say that Pax Britannica didn't come with peace. Oh no. It came with fasad. And if they don't understand what is fasad in Washington, let's tell them. It is that which corrupts and it destroys while corrupting. And Allah reserves the greatest punishment of all for fasad. And so Pax Britannica came exactly as the angels said, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. Are you going to place on earth those who will establish a reign of terror and oppression and corruption and destruction and enormous bloodshed? Are you going to do that? The angels are saying to Allah. And it manifested itself with Pax Britannica. That's the beginning of what the angels were seeing. This is a unique way of looking at history. You cannot find this in political analysis. You cannot find this in historical analysis. This is eschatological analysis. And that the historical process then moved on beyond Pax Britannica to a second stage of even more fasad, meaning more corruption and more destruction, and even more bloodshed. Enormous bloodshed, rivers of blood, with something called Pax Americana. Why? They want to establish a Khilafah state. They won't tell you that. We have to tell you. Their objective is to establish a Khilafah state in the Holy Land. That's what the British want to do. But the British won't tell you that. That's what the Americans want to do. But the Americans won't tell you that. And now, from our Islamic eschatological perspective, the world has now reached, the historical process has now reached that point in time when Pax Americana is in irreversible decline, and a new actor is about to emerge to replace Pax Americana in the same way that Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica. You're not going to get this statement anywhere else but in eschatology. No one else can do it. No political scientist can do it. None. Only the eschatologists. And we know that in order for Pax Britannica to come into being, they had to wage endless wars at the point of a bloody sword. Oppression upon oppression upon oppression. Wickedness upon wickedness upon wickedness. While yet dressed up in black suits and bow ties and shirts and asking us to believe that they are the chosen of the Lord God. That they are a superior race of people. And they were created to civilize the rest of us. To teach us, for example, how to eat. That civilized people don't eat with their hands and fingers. A civilized person uses cutlery already. That civilized people don't dress except the way they dress. And we are supposed to follow their way of life. And we are supposed to become carbon copies of them. And you are only educated when you have graduated from Oxford and Cambridge. Now you are educated. But if you have a degree from a Pakistani institution, that's nowhere. It doesn't belong anywhere. This is Pax Britannica. The arrogance of a people claiming a birthright of superiority over the rest of mankind. The arrogance of such a people. It reminds us of a gentleman, no, should I call him gentleman? Who said, when Allah asked him, Iblis, why did you not submit? Why did you not make sajda? When I ordered you to do so before Adam alayhi salam. And he responded and he said, I was born superior. I have a birthright of superiority over him. Exactly what a gentleman called Pax Britannica is saying. It's arrogance. And there is no place for arrogance in heaven. So get out to Iblis. Out you go. This arrogance was then taken to a higher level in Pax Americana. And now we are waiting to see the big war which is to come, which is necessary for the transition from Pax Americana to the third and last stage. How do I come to this conclusion that there will be only three stages in this drama? For the establishment of a bogus khilafah. And khilafah meaning the state in which God's law is supreme, where Allah's authority is supreme, where government is based on truth, and truth does not come from CNN, truth comes from Allah. Our Prophet said, Allah's blessings be upon him, he gave us a timeline of events that you are familiar with now, if you've been listening to me. It is to be found in the Sunan of Abi Dawood, and the Prophet ﷺ is speaking to his companion, Mu'az ibn Jabal, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he said, Umranu Baytil Maqdis kharabu Yathrib. Kharabu Yathrib khurujul malhama. Khurujul malhama fathul Constantiniya. Fathul Constantiniya khurujul Dajjal. This is the hadith. Umranu Baytul Maqdis. Baytul Maqdis is Jerusalem. Umranu Baytul Maqdis, when Jerusalem is built up, or when Jerusalem is flourishing, or when Jerusalem is at the center stage of history, occupying a prominent position in the world. At that time, look to Medina, Madinatul Munawwara. And when you see that Medina is kharab, broken, it occupies no status at all. It is nothing, nowhere. Or it is, I don't know whether the Malay language has an expression like this. It is in a state of forlorn desolation. Come on, tell me in Malay. Come on. You do speak the Malay language, don't you? Come on, forlorn desolation. Huh? Tarbiyah. Okay. Tarbiyah. Tabah ho gaya. It's broken up. Then when Medina is in that state, it has no status at all in the world. None. Just a tourist curiosity for Muslims who want to go, that's all. Then at that time, the next event that's going to occur is the Malhama. And it's going to be the biggest war that the world has ever known. How do we know that? Because our Prophet said that 99 out of every 100 who fight in that war will be killed. So there's never been a war like that in history. It'll be the unique war. It cannot be a conventional war, because conventional warfare does not kill 99% of combatants. So it has to be a war which will use weapons of mass destruction. What are these weapons? We know about nuclear weapons, we don't know about the rest, which is still secret. When this war takes place, this is the Malhama, 99% of all combatants will be killed. Those who have faith in their heart don't mind to die for the sake of truth. But those who are only fighting for a US green card, that's all. We are in the army to get a job. We are fighting in the US Army to get promotion, to get skills. We are not here to fight for truth. Oh no! They don't want to die. For them, there's bad news. When they listen to this lecture, there's going to be terror in their hearts. Because they look, who is this man named Muhammad? Tell us something about him. Because this is looking dangerous now. Because what this man is saying is that in this war, there are going to be weapons of mass destruction, and they're going to kill 99% of combatants. If this man, Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, is speaking the truth, we are in the wrong place at the wrong time to be in the US Army. So there are those who will come to the war unafraid to die. No. And there are others who will come into this war with terror in their hearts. That's where we are today. The war will take place anytime. It can start anytime. When will it start? I don't know. But over the last 2 years, I've had no less than 8 dreams. 8 dreams of nuclear war. And I'm constantly getting emails from people around the world who are saying the same thing. And not only dreams, political analysts, military analysts are all saying the same thing. We are moving towards World War III, they call it. The Christians call it Armageddon. In Islam, it's known as the Malhama, meaning a war like no war has ever been, and no war will ever be again, the Malhama. That's where we are today. Where will this war take place? We have for the first time, and I have to thank Kaisar Darussalam Academy, that Imran Hosein for the first time is using technology. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so happy. Kaisar Darussalam in Damansara. Thank you. We have a screen there. The Quran is a wonderful book for history. Allah speaks in the Quran about a traveler who traveled to the two ends of the land. The Jews wanted to know whether this man in Arabia, a man named Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, who says he's a prophet, does he know about it? A traveler who traveled to the two ends of the land. Ask him about it, because only a prophet will know the answer. And Allah sent down the answer in Surah Al-Kahf. And He says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. They question thee about Zulqarnain, someone who will impact on history twice. Qarni can mean horn, it can mean an age. But the Quran has never used the word qarn to mean a horn, never. So Zulqarnain is someone who will impact on history twice. He's also someone who has faith in Allah. And he's someone who is empowered by Allah with power. And that power is such that he can pursue any effort he chooses to pursue. So be careful, huh? Be careful, huh? If you're in the US Armed Forces, you better listen carefully while still there is time. He travels in the direction of the setting of the sun until he comes to a body of water. And the Quran describes it as Aynun Hamiyah, a body of water which is dark and murky, dark and murky. And then he travels in the direction of the rising of the sun to the end of the land, and there, of course, will be another body of water. And then he travels in a third direction, which takes him to a pass between two mountain ranges. And there in that pass, he comes across Gog and Magog. And only a prophet of Allah would know about Gog and Magog. I can assure you, government of Malaysia doesn't know about Gog and Magog. Security Council of the United Nations cannot tell you about Gog and Magog. No. It's the Quran. Gog and Magog are human beings. But they are human beings who are also given power by Allah. And they use that power for a specific purpose. That power is used to oppress. While in the case of Zulqarnain, he uses his power to punish the oppressor. So they are opposites. The people in that area turned to Zulqarnain and asked him, can you protect us from these evil people, Gog and Magog, who are so powerful and use their power to oppress? And he built a barrier with iron, blocks of iron. And he then said, when Allah chooses, Allah is going to bring down the barrier. When the barrier is brought down, then Gog and Magog will be released. And when they are released, then said our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, that the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee and start to drink the water. And by the time the last of them pass, they will say, there used to be water here. Okay, so now let's go to the map. Shall we? Okay. Here we are. This is the Holy Land here. And the Sea of Galilee is north of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is somewhere here. Here we are, Jerusalem. And the Sea of Galilee will be somewhere here. Okay? Are you following me? Good. So, if you know a little bit of geography, you have to come to the conclusion that if Gog and Magog are going to Jerusalem, and that's their destination, Jerusalem, the Hadith does not say Jerusalem, it says Baitul Maqdis. They're going to Jerusalem, that's their destination, and on their way to Jerusalem they have to pass by the Sea of Galilee. Implication is they're coming from the north. They're coming from the north. So now we have to look to the north of Jerusalem to see where there is water. And when we look to the north of Jerusalem to see where there is water, there are only two bodies of water. There's one over here which is called the Mediterranean Sea, okay? And over there's another one called the Black Sea. The Mediterranean Sea does not qualify as Ainun Hamiyah, a body of water which is dark and murky, because visibility is good. You can see deep down, a few meters. But the Black Sea is precisely that, the Black Sea. That's why they gave it the name, the Black Sea. Because it is Ainun Hamiyah, exactly what Allah says in the Quran, Ainun Hamiyah. A body of water which is so dark and murky that visibility is probably only 1 meter. It is to this Black Sea that he traveled when he traveled to the setting of the sun. There is no third option. It's either the Mediterranean Sea or the Black Sea. There is no third one. We have eliminated the Mediterranean Sea, so we are absolutely confident in ourselves and our conclusion that Zulkarnain traveled in the direction of the Black Sea. So he has to be traveling here. If you travel in the direction of the setting of the sun and he came to the Black Sea, then when he traveled in the opposite direction, he'd come to the Caspian Sea. That's right. And in between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, there is a range of mountains which last from this sea to that sea. What are they called? What are they called? The Caucasus Mountains. And in the Caucasus Mountains there is one pass, only one, and it's called the Dariel Gorge. And that's where Zulkarnain built the barrier. And Gog and Magog were then contained, or to use the language of a game called chess. Zulkarnain checkmated them. Checkmated them, okay? He has power, and he uses his power to punish the oppressor. They have power, Gog and Magog, but they use their power to oppress. So he checkmated them. Over here, right here, between these two seas is the Caucasus Mountains. In the Quran, Allah refers to Gog and Magog while speaking about a town. And he says the town was destroyed, the people of the town were expelled, and then a ban was placed on them that they could never return to this town to reclaim it as their own until, number one, Gog and Magog are released, and number two, they spread out in all directions, and with their irresistible power, they take control of the world in the world order of Gog and Magog. When that happens, then you'll see these people coming back to the town to reclaim it as their own. Which town is it? The answer is now very well known. It's Jerusalem. So when you see the Jews being brought back, we're talking now about the Israelite Jews, not the European Jews. When you see the Israelite Jews being brought back to the Holy Land from Yemen, from Iraq, from Syria, from Egypt, from Morocco, all over the world, where they were spread out. وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمٍ. And you see them being brought back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own. And you see a state of Israel being restored in the Holy Land. And you see that state of Israel rising to become a ruling state in the world. Then you must know it's Gog and Magog. It's Gog and Magog who is doing it. Okay? So now we have a very clear picture before us here. The first of them will leave this area when they are released, and they will start moving to this area. And they will pass by the Sea of Galilee and start to drink the water. So when you see the water level in the Sea of Galilee going down lower and lower and lower and lower, you know that a lot of them have already passed. And by the time the Sea of Galilee dries up and there is no more water, they have all left the north and they have reached to the Holy Land. Where are we now? Because this is our lecture, an Islamic eschatological view of the state of the world today. Answer? Just look at the Sea of Galilee and you'd know. A little island just appeared in the Sea of Galilee maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, which was not there before. The Sea of Galilee is going down. It is in irreversible decline. It's just a matter of time now before it dries up, indicating that most of Gog and Magog have already come this way. Now comes a new analysis that I have never given before, because knowledge comes to me every day, little bit, yeah. If Gog and Magog are leaving the north and coming to the south, and when the water level is very low, the implications will be that most of them have already come to the south. It means that the power of Gog and Magog is being concentrated in the south, in the Holy Land and around the Holy Land, the Arab world. And the power of Gog and Magog is weakening in the north. And so a window of opportunity now exists. And when the war takes place, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, that the event which will follow the Malhama is the conquest of Constantinople. Once there is a conquest of Constantinople, the implication would be that Gog and Magog have suffered a significant military defeat. In other words, the backbone of Gog and Magog is breaking in the north, while it is still strong in the south, in the Arab world. The Arabs are going to be destroyed, said the Prophet ﷺ. أَنُهْلَكُ وَفِينَا الصَّالِحُونَ, she asked, Zainab radiallahu ta'ala, will we Arabs be destroyed even though there are righteous people amongst us? He said, Na'am, indicating that this is not punishment from Allah. No. They are righteous people, and yet they're being destroyed. This is something which is occurring in the historical purpose for a specific reason, unconnected with punishment. Why will Allah allow the Arabs to be destroyed? Answer, he said to his son, Ya bunayya, inni ara fil manami anni asbahu. Oh my son, I've seen in my dream I have to sacrifice you. Fanzur maza tara. Son, how do you respond? The son responded and said, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Oh my father, go ahead, do what you've been ordered to do. They thought that it was an actual sacrifice. But Allah is a wise God, and a wise God does not order human sacrifice. No. It's incompatible with wisdom to order human sacrifice. So this dream has something else in it, this vision, okay? When he took the knife and he was about to sacrifice his son, then Allah called out to him and said, Ya Ibrahim, O Abraham, qad sadaqta ru'ya. You have already fulfilled the vision. You have accepted the sacrifice of Ismail alayhi salam. It is that sacrifice of the seed of Ismail alayhi salam which is about to take place, concurrently with the Malhama. So Gog and Magog are going to be very powerful in and around the Holy Land. And part of that power will be shown in the destruction of the Arabs. And so the flag of Islam will not come anymore from the Arabs after the Malhama. The flag of Islam will be held up by non-Arabs, because the Arabs are going to be destroyed. If you look at the Black Sea, you will see that there is a peninsula over here. Can you see it? It's called Crimea. Okay? There it is. And if you control Crimea, you control the whole Black Sea. Look at it. And they did everything they could do for the last few hundred years to ensure that Orthodox Christianity, led by Russia, should never control Crimea. They used the Tatar to control Crimea, and the Tatar were slave raiders. They may listen to me and get annoyed with me, but the facts are there. The facts are there. They were slave raiders. And they loved to raid the Russians most of all. And then the Ottoman Empire took control of Crimea and used the Tatar as slave raiders. Yeah. And the Ottomans controlled Crimea for many years, a few hundred years, until Russia defeated them and Russia claimed the Crimean Peninsula. When Russia took control of the Crimean Peninsula, Britain and France and Europe could not take that. No. They did everything they could possibly do until finally they had to wage war on Russia to deny Russia Crimea. And that was the last great war that took place before the modern age of warfare with the First World War. What was it called? It was called the Crimean War. And it was fought from 1852 to 1854, 55. If I make a mistake 1 or 2 years, we are friends, you can manage that, okay? That is when the Crimean War took place. And Russia fought that war courageously. Courageously, yes, courageously, but Russia lost the war in the end. And when they won the war, what they did was to demilitarize Crimea. that Crimea could still remain Russian under Russian sovereignty, but you could not maintain a military base, naval base in Crimea. That is why they fought the war. But within a matter of 7 or 9 years, Russia was able to reverse that and restore a naval base in Crimea. And Russia continued to have that naval base in Crimea until something happened in 1917. They struck Russia and they plunged a dagger into the heart of Russia in 1917 with the Bolshevik Revolution. And then came the effort to destroy the spiritual heart of Russia, to destroy the Orthodox Christian faith, and to transform Russia into an atheist country, similar to what Britain is today, an atheist country. Nobody goes to church anymore. So you sell the church to whom? To McDonald's hamburgers, of course. Who else? Yesterday, you worship the Lord God in this building. Today you're eating McDonald's hamburgers in it. That's what you are today. And then they brought the Soviet Union into being as an atheist state, and a reign of terror was unleashed to destroy the religious foundations of Russian society. In 1954, 6 years after Israel was born, the Russian leader Nikita Khrushchev secretly planned something to stab Russia one more time. He announced that Crimea was going to be handed over to Ukraine. Already? Do you have the authority to hand over Russian territory to Ukraine? Will the United Nations accept such a nonsense? Huh? Will the so-called international community, which includes Malaysia, will they accept that you could just hand over a people's territory to another people, one man? Huh? But that's what they did. And all the sheep in the world accepted it, up to this miserable day. So Crimea became Ukrainian territory. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, they caused it to collapse, and Ukraine became an independent state. Then Russia had to have an agreement with Ukraine to allow Russia to maintain a naval base in Crimea with certain limitations on the number of troops you can keep and so on. And the plan was for Ukraine to eventually become a member of NATO and then kick Russia out. And when that happens, then Russia will no longer be a superpower. Finish. That's the end of the story. They planned, and Allah planned His plan, and Allah's plan was the best. When they struck and they overthrew the government of Ukraine with their color revolution, and Ukraine's government is now poised to kick Russia out, what happened? Russia then turned to the people of Crimea and they voted, we want to be with Russia. The Crimean parliament voted to be, the Crimean parliament voted to be with Russia. And Russia accepted it, and Crimea returned to Russia. That happened, what, about 2 years ago? 2 years ago? That was the most significant defeat that the Zionist movement had ever experienced from the day it was born, when Crimea returned to Russia. And when Crimea returned to Russia, if you would remember, I said, it's time for Imran Hosein to celebrate. Because I was looking at the subject from eschatology. And so what we are now about to witness is a Russia who commands power in the Crimea, in the Black Sea. because of control over Crimea. So when the war begins, what's going to happen? Remember, the first of them passed long, long ago. And most of them have already passed Gog and Magog. So now they are weak in the north and they're strong in the south. The power base is in the south now, in and around the Holy Land. So when the war takes place, what we'll see is a repeat of history. History will repeat itself one more time, that they are going to be checkmated by Russia in the north. In consequence of being checkmated by Russia in the north, that is why the conquest of Constantinople will become possible. When the conquest of Constantinople takes place, the backbone of NATO will be broken. But I don't think the conquest of Constantinople is possible without civil war in Turkey. And they just laid the foundations for that civil war with their bogus coup d'etat. That was, I think, 2 months ago or a month and a half ago. A bogus coup d'etat that even a schoolboy could see it's already planned in advance to fail. Okay? Even a schoolboy could see that. You think the Russians can't see that? Even a schoolboy could see, you think the Russians can't see that? That it was planned to fail. It was planned so that the Turkish president could be able to wipe out all the opposition that he had. Opposition, for example, to waging war on Syria. Many in the Turkish armed forces were opposed to Turkey waging war on Syria. Okay? Now they have been wiped out. They're no longer there. It's only a matter of time now before Turkey will attack Syria. Once Turkey attacks Syria, Russia is going to respond with full force. Oh yes. And when will Turkey attack Syria? I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't send me any emails. I don't know. I don't know. But it looks as though it's going to be soon. It looks as though it's going to be soon. When that attack on Syria takes place by the Turkish armed forces, which I've been anticipating for 2 or 3 years now, and then Russia responds with full force on Turkey, we are laying the foundations for the conquest of Constantinople. The word of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam must come true. Must come true. Once the conquest of Constantinople takes place, then we know what's going to happen after that, the khuruj of Dajjal. In between the two, in between the Malhama, or the Great War, and the khuruj of Dajjal, meaning Dajjal, the false Messiah appearing in human form, between these two events is part 3 of the drama. Pax Judaica. Pax Judaica. And in Pax Judaica we know already, if that, the first stage there was that monetary system with the British pound, and in this stage there was that monetary system with the US dollar, that in stage 3 you must have a new monetary system. I mean, it doesn't need much intelligence to know that. What will be the money system in the 3rd stage? We know already it's going to be invisible money, electronic money. I always wanted to know how you could have electronic money after a nuclear war, until somebody from Saudi Arabia came and told me, Sheikh, don't you have any sense? You have underground cables. The underground cables can survive the nuclear war. So the wireless internet will not be there. But you'll also you still have the internet through the underground cables, okay? So this is how the banking system will be able to survive, but I am getting the impression that they don't need the banking system anymore, they need only the central banks. The world will be ruled by the central banks. So your little bank here and your little bank there and your little bank there, goodbye. Central banks take over. And they control the central banks of the world. In fact, they own many of the central banks. Russia's central bank is owned privately. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. Why did they make it a private bank? Why? Because they want to rule the world through the banking system. How do we respond? How do we respond? My answer is, as soon as the malhama takes place, leave whatever you are doing. Make provisions for your wife and children, and join the struggle for restoring the Khilafah state. The Khilafah state is easy to understand. Understand that it is simply a state in which Allah's law is supreme. That's all. So you can't be a member of the United Nations organization. No. Can't be a member of the International Monetary Fund. Most of our people seem to be comfortable as members of the United Nations. Comfortable as members of the International Monetary Fund, etc. Leave them in their comfort. Those who are the servants of Allah, those in whose hearts there is love for Allah, whose hearts beat for the truth, that the truth must prevail, that the truth must be used to govern, that the truth must be used to judge. These people must now wage the struggle to restore the Khilafah state. So long as Gog and Magog control the world in the world order of Gog and Magog, you could not survive as a Khilafah state, and once you are destroyed, you cannot be restored. They're too powerful. The Khilafah state of the Ottoman Empire was, of course, bogus in many respects, but it still had some of the trappings of the Khilafah state. And that was abolished in 1924. From 1924 to now, almost 100 years, no Khilafah state in the world of Islam. But in the hearts of those who still have love for Allah, the Khilafah state is still there. They have not surrendered the Khilafah state. Their excellencies have done it. Their majesties have done it. Government has done it. Bureaucracy has done it. They don't care for the Khilafah state. It's not a part of their agenda. But in the hearts of those who sincerely worship Allah, the Khilafah state will never be surrendered. So we say to them, you could take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it. You cannot destroy it in the hearts of the servants of Allah. No. And on that day when this big war starts, on that day every servant of Allah is going to mobilize himself. The women will mobilize because they'll have to take charge. They'll have to find the ways of maintaining the family while the men go out. And you're going to struggle to restore the Khilafah state. Can it be done in the Arab world? Can it be done in the Arab world? No. Sorrowfully so, no. Why? Because he had the dream. He had the vision. And this is part of the plan, that sometimes we have to sacrifice for the sake of the truth being triumphant. And so the Arabs are going to be destroyed. And so the Khilafah state will have to be restored from the non-Arab world. Where will it be? When will it be restored? I don't know. Even if it cannot be restored until Imam al-Mahdi comes, never mind. Never mind. But let the world see that the servants of Allah in the world of Islam, that the servants of Allah in the Orthodox Christian world, these two families, the Orthodox Christian world and the world of Islam, that we have not surrendered the Khilafah state, not the Orthodox Christian and not the Muslim. And we're going to wage a struggle to restore the Khilafah state. Is this a state that wants to conquer the world? Is this a state that wants to rule the whole world, like Pax Britannica and like Pax Americana, you know, with corruption and destruction and rivers of blood? And you come to teach us? We are the natives, and you are the elite of mankind, and you want to teach us in your Oxford and your Cambridge and your Sorbonne and your Harvard and your Yale and all the rest? No. Our Khilafah state does not want to rule the world. Our Khilafah state does not want to oppress anyone. You are the ones who are the oppressors, not us. Our Khilafah state simply wants that on Allah's earth there should be peace and security for all. Peace and security for the Hindu, peace and security for the Buddhist, peace and security for the Jew, peace and security for everybody. A world of salam. That's all we want. A world of salam. Allahu yad'u ila daris salam. And when there is oppression on the face of the earth, when there is aggression on the face of the earth, the Khilafah state cannot sit down and have biryani and go to sleep. No. The Khilafah state will respond, and we will explore and exhaust all possible peaceful means of removing the aggression and removing the oppression. And when we have explored and we have exhausted all possible means of resolving it, and we fail, then we fight you. Then we fight you, not before. So this is not a state that's hungry for war and lusting for war the way you are lusting for the great war now, which you could start maybe next week or next month. They're lusting for it. Their people are going to be killed. Millions are going to be, they don't care. They don't care two peanuts that their own people are going to be killed. No, they don't care. They only have one lust in their heart. They want to rule the world by the hook or by the crook. But our Khilafah state does not want to rule the world. No. Our Khilafah state simply want to have a world in which there is peace and security for all. That is the Khilafah state. And so we end now. This is enough for today. We have presented to you an Islamic eschatological view of the world today. We have not attempted much about the world tomorrow, except to say that from the time the war starts, on the day that the war starts, life is going to be different. May Allah take these words all over the world of Islam, and may Allah take these words also to our brothers and sisters all over the Orthodox Christian world, because we are one family. You and us, we are one family. And that we may now wage the struggle to restore the Khilafah state somewhere on Allah's earth. The Khilafah state being defined as a state in which Allah's law is supreme. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Imran Hosein, for your insights and view. Okay, we would like to open for questions and answers. If you have any. Anybody?
Nuruddin, can you get me a copy of methodology, please?
I have a question regarding the impending attack by Turkey on Syria. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit on the significance of Syria towards Russia or its conquest of Constantinople.
You're wondering if I could explain what?
The significance of Syria?
The significance of Syria to Russia.
That would trigger...
The significance of Syria to Russia?
That would trigger.
Huh?
Significance of Syria to Russia that would trigger the flashpoint.
The significance of Syria to Russia, that gentleman you're seeing there at the corner is Maurice Herman. Yeah. Who is dressed like a sheikh today, mashallah. Welcome, Maurice. Yeah, welcome, Maurice, yeah. You have a nice hat on your head there. Good. Maurice flew all the way from Cambodia to come to Malaysia to interview me this morning. And he's back, he's now here tonight as well, so we are very happy to welcome you, Maurice, yeah. Syria occupies a position of paramount importance to Russia as a Christian people. If Russia was an atheist state, then Russia would have no interest in Syria, no. Why should we endanger the state of Russia itself for the sake of Syria? They are an Arab people. They're not Russians. Is it in our national interest to put down Russia for a world war over Syria? The answer is that Russia is Christian, sincerely Christian, not part-time Christian. And Russia considers Syria to be at the heart of the Orthodox Christian world, that this is the last remaining part of the earth which we must save and salvage. If Russia did not intervene in Syria militarily, then Syria would have become already another Libya. And there are many, excuse my language, there are many jackasses in the world of Islam, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in the Arab world, Turkey, all over, who would celebrate if Syria were to become another Libya, because they consider that to be a valid jihad. These jackasses believe that you can have a valid jihad with weapons being supplied by Santa Claus. Yeah. And Santa Claus providing all the money, usually US dollars, and Santa Claus providing all the logistical support and the training, military training and so on. Everything from Santa Claus. And that is a jihad? Is that your intelligence? No. It's a bogus jihad. And as a consequence, I normally don't call people fools. I try not to do that, yes. But you are a fool with a capital F for taking weapons from NATO and taking weapons from the Americans and calling yourself a Muslim to go and fight your bogus jihad in Libya, in consequence of which today Libya is a NATO state. We don't want to see your face. We will never pray over your body. We'll never stand at your grave. Do you hear that? You can kill a man if you want, but you cannot kill the truth. Remember that. You kill and you love killing. So go ahead and kill as many as you want. But we're telling you, you cannot kill the truth. And we're prepared to die. We're not afraid of death. If the Russian people are not afraid of that, why should we Muslims be afraid of that? If the Russian Christian, Orthodox Christians are showing such mettle today, they're not afraid to die. Why should we be afraid to die? And so the reason why they are there in Syria is to save Syria from being another Libya. If Syria were to become another Libya, there is a large Christian community in Syria, an old Christian community in Syria. And these Christians in Syria, some of them are Western Christians, but many of them are Orthodox. I think these bloody, bloodthirsty Dajjal's warriors waging their bogus jihad would have slaughtered every Christian in Syria if they had succeeded. But we thank Allah, we thank Allah that Russia intervened. Governments, of course, don't believe that we are right. No. The governments believe otherwise, and they vote in the Security Council otherwise. But we have a different view. And we say that we are grateful to Russia for having saved Syria from becoming another Libya. There's another aspect to the analysis, of course, and that is that in Syria there is a Russian naval base on the Mediterranean Sea. And that's the only warm water naval base that the Russians have other than in Crimea. If Russia were to lose that base in Syria and it were to become a NATO base, it would be a massive embarrassment for Syria. Any more questions or comments? Oh, you haven't had dinner yet, okay. Yes. You can sit down, you can sit down.
So in the case of a possible war between Russia and Turkey in Syria, for example, so who should we support as Muslims?
Okay, if the war breaks out, the war takes place, and on the one hand side, you have Russia, and on the other side you have Turkey. Who should we support as Muslims? Are you aware that Turkey is a member state of NATO? Are you aware of that? Are you aware that Allah has prohibited that in the Quran? Prohibited that in the Quran? Yes? Or you don't know? Oh, let me tell you then. Allah speaks in the Quran about two kinds of Christians. He says about one of the Christians that they're going to become the closest in love and affection for you Muslims. And he gives us ample means by which we can identify them as the Orthodox Christians. But then he speaks about another kind of Christian in the Quran. And he says, لا بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء بعضهم أولياء بعض. Meaning, and this is why I need you to read this book. This is my latest book, Methodology for Study of the Quran. I don't want you to read this book alone, I want you to study it, okay? Do not take such Jews and do not take such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. And if any of you turn to them with friendship and alliance, as Turkey has done, not the Turkish people, Turkish government, you now belong to them, you've left us. You've now belonged to them, you've left us. So who should you support? Turkey has joined NATO. Turkey is a part of NATO. NATO is the military arm of a Jewish-Christian alliance in Europe, European society, Western civilization. The Quran is speaking about that, prohibiting you. So we cannot support Turkey, which no longer is a part of us. Let's join them. Okay? Whereas Russia is standing up to the oppressor, resisting the oppressor. And NATO is the oppressor. In a war between the oppressor and the one who is resisting the oppressor, if a Muslim stands aside and says, I am not involved in this, what kind of Islam is that? You're supposed to support the victims of oppression. You're supposed to support those who are standing up to the oppressor, because Allah gave to this ummah a mission. Amar bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar. When it is something that is right and is just, stand up for it. And when it is unjust and false, stand up against it. Don't eat biryani and go home and sleep. So you have to support Russia, because Russia is standing up to the oppressor. Any more questions? Yes.
I was just wondering, Sheikh, can you share something on Iran? Because they are also non-Arab and they have been a long and line of clash.
Yes, there are two forces in Iran. Two faces of Iran. One with which we are very comfortable and happy. When Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was the president of Iran, every Muslim around the world loved him. He commanded the respect of all Muslims. A simple man. When I met him, here is the chair for the man who is former president. He should sit support there, and we have other chairs, and we just a group of about 15, 20 people. He didn't sit on the chair for the head. He came and sat on another chair. And he's wearing a leather jacket, you know, like when you go on a motorbike to go. That's how he was dressed. A man of utmost simplicity, a very lovable person, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. So long as he was in charge of Iran, they couldn't make a deal with him. They could never make a deal with him. Okay? That's the face of Iran we love. And there are many in Iran whose hearts beat for that age that is now gone. I don't want to say anything more. Any more questions? Yeah.
In Greece and Cyprus, there is a good community of Christian Orthodox. There is even a monastery in Speranza in Slovakia. Do you see any significance to the Christian Orthodox community in that part of the world?
I have understood at all. Maybe leave the microphone, yeah.
There is a community of...
There is?
A strong community of Christian...
A strong winty. What's a winty? A strong community, okay. There's a strong, no, leave the microphone. Yeah.
Strong community.
There's a strong community
of Christian
Orthodox. Of Orthodox Christians. Where?
In Greece.
In Greece.
And Cyprus.
And in Cyprus.
They even have a monastery in Mesonogi.
They have many monasteries, many, yes.
So, do you see any significance in the role that the Orthodox Christian in that part of the world?
In Greece and in Cyprus, the opportunity exists mostly, more in Cyprus than in Greece, if we have scholars of Islam, to reach out for fraternizing with the Orthodox Christians. And I'm happy to recognize that Sheikh Nazim's Naqshbandi, the Naqshbandi silsila of the Sufis are doing that in Cyprus. I got the evidence and I commend them for that, yes. Nobody else is doing it. Reach out to the Orthodox Christians, build friendship and fraternity and solidarity with them in Cyprus, and that will send a message to Greece and to other parts of the Orthodox Christian world And this is a time when we ought to be doing it. Yes. Any more questions or comments? Yeah.
Assalamualaikum. I have a comment and a question. My comment is on the context of the malhama.
The malhama.
Yes. From my point of view, and I've done a lot of extensive research on this particular context, what I believe, this is from my own point of view, my own perspective, that the malhama, it will be triggered not in the use of nuclear weapons of mass destruction, because I believe if they were to, the malhama were to trigger with the use of nuclear weapons, I believe that it will not be able for the Pax Judaica to restart civilization.
Okay.
Because, let's say, there was an all-out war. A nuclear fallout with that all-out war with Russia and America itself will be enough to destroy
the whole world.
The whole world.
All life will be destroyed.
Yeah,
okay.
Because just take one consideration, one nuclear weapon will be enough just to destroy Israel during that malhama.
Okay.
But I believe, and I think that you might need to reconsider, that the malhama will happen, and the weapon that they will be using will be cyber weapons.
Okay.
I've made extensive research where there was an operation that was carried out by NSA and CIA that was called Operation Dark Winter, where they made a simulation, a supercomputer simulation of this scenario, where the use of cyber weapons, and they've actually used it previously during the controversy of Iranian, during the controversy of Ahmadinejad building this nuclear reactor, right? Where they've used one of the most powerful viruses ever built, where it's able to destroy the centrifuges of the nuclear reactor in Iran without the scientists, any scientists in Iran knowing that it was the virus was causing those nuclear reactor to, I would say, break down. And they themselves made a statement where in Iran, without any knowledge from from the government of Iran, that there is a super weapon, a cyber weapon that's been developed by NSA and CIA. It is called something is called Zeus weapon. It's a cyber virus, where it's able to dismantle the entire nation, every critical infrastructure, even the military and telecommunication, without ever destroying it, but enough to invade the country without the country able to retaliate.
Okay, will it create no sunshine? Can cyber weapons block the sunlight?
No, it will not.
Okay.
Right.
When the malhama takes place, there is a surah of the Quran you might want to read. It's called Dukhan.
Yes.
Dukhan. Smoke. The reason why it's there is because when the malhama takes place, there's going to be what the Quran calls smoke, okay? Covering the whole earth to such an extent that our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, has said that there'll be several days of no sunlight. And I am unaware. I don't know what are cyber weapons. You know better than me whether cyber weapons can block the sunlight from coming. All right, whether it's going to be nuclear weapons or not nuclear weapons is academic, really. What is going to happen is going to be the war like no other war has ever been. And 99 out of every 100 of the combatants will all be killed, okay? My view is that you have to be, it cannot be conventional war anymore. It has to be a new kind of war. My view is it's a war of weapons of mass destruction, and he has introduced a new kind of weapon called cyber weapons, of which I am not aware. So let's leave that subject to see what's going to happen in the future. Any more questions or comments there? Okay, that's it.
You mentioned two cases, Britannia and American.
I mentioned two cases.
Two cases.
Two cases.
Phases.
Two phases.
Yeah, before the third phase materialized.
Two phases. Okay,
Yes,
the
right.
phase of the first phase of Pax Britannica,
That's correct.
the second phase of Pax Americana,
That's correct.
and you want to know about the third.
No. Now the first is Britannia. They're making presence in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. And the second phase, which you mentioned, America, they're making presence in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, how would that impact on the third phase, which you mentioned? They're making presence in Bahrain, Qatar, and Afghanistan,
No.
which is outside from your...
First phase ended. The first phase ended. Pax Britannica is no longer in existence. First phase is gone.
Gone, correct.
Gone, finished.
Finished.
During the time that they were Pax Britannica, they controlled every single strategically important naval port everywhere on the face of the earth, because there's no aerial warfare at that time. Okay? When Bretton Woods took place, at that time, Pax Britannica had to recede at Bretton Woods, and Pax Americana took over officially, the US dollar replacing the sterling pound. Pax Judaica is about to replace Pax Americana. It cannot take place while the US dollar is still the international currency. No. There are some who are saying that Pax Judaica has already started. Yes, I said no. So long as the US dollar still continues to function as the international currency, Pax Americana has not as yet ended. I am not in a position to analyze concerning the location of military bases and so on. I'm not a military strategist, I'm an eschatologist.
Correct.
Well.
So, since you mentioned that they're actually not, they're not in control, they're not moving to the third phase, why are they making presence back in that part of the world? And that part, that means what I'm trying to say is, if they're making presence, it's insignificant because they are no more in control. Or
Okay.
is it why are they surfacing
Okay.
these two boxes? When you mentioned that
I don't see two boxes. I see a concentration of the power of Gog and Magog in and around the Holy Land. That's what I said. In and around the Holy Land. Based on the hadith that the first of them would pass by the Sea of Galilee on their way to Jerusalem and start to drink the water. And by the time the last of them passed, they'll say there used to be water here. So the power profile of Gog and Magog is continuously declining at the north and continuously increasing in the south. So when the war takes place, the backbone will crack in the north. That's why you have the conquest of Constantinople possible. But their control of the south is such that the Arabs are going to be destroyed.
Okay. Then, since you have mentioned that, can I say that the Afghanistan and Pakistan and that presence actually is just a diversion, whereby the main issue is actually that part of the world?
The main issue is...
Because people are diverted in that box.
I'm not interested in boxes. The main issue is the Holy Land and around the Holy Land. That is the crux of the problem.
I understand.
The Arab world is at the heart of the subject. And the Arabs are going to be destroyed.
Right.
I said to you that as the concentration of the power of Gog and Magog is located in the Arab world, in and around the Holy Land. The periphery is becoming weaker for Gog and Magog. And it will be the non-Arabs who will have to struggle for the restoration of the Khilafah. And that includes Afghanistan, that includes Pakistan. I simply don't understand your question, I'm sorry.
Okay. Maybe I'll okay. No, hold on. Okay, today, if I was not present in this session today, and I'm a reader out there who reads Times and wherever it is,
Yes.
I'm making assumption that the big wars will be Afghanistan and Pakistan and that part of the world, and not knowing the fact is that part of the area. This is what I'm trying to say. I mean, you are now diverted that
No.
the big war
The big war is the Malhama.
Okay.
The Malhama is most likely going to start with a Turkish attack on Syria. I said that. But whenever I give an opinion, you know the rule.
I don't know.
The rule is don't accept my opinion unless you're convinced that I'm correct, because I can make mistakes, okay? I don't trust the Turkish leadership at all, and I don't think the Russians trust the Turkish leadership as well. So I am expecting that the war will commence with a Turkish attack on Syria, but I can be wrong. The war will be fought in that terrain, north of Damascus, yeah, between Syria and Turkey. That's where the war will be fought. But the war will also be fought in the area of the Black Sea. Okay? And it will be a war between Russia and Turkey. But because Turkey is a member of NATO, it'll be Russia versus NATO. China is not going to be standing aside of that war, so Russia will be supported by China. And Iran will be supporting Russia and China, I believe, because the military in Iran is not controlled by the president. The military is controlled by the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. And he has his heart in the right place, yes. Any more questions? Is this the last question? One more. Okay. Is that accepted? Everybody? Thank you.
In the Quran, Allah talks about how the Byzantines were defeated by the Persians.
In the Quran, Allah speaks of how the Byzantines were defeated by the Persians, yes. In which surah?
Surah Rum.
Surah to Rum, correct.
From in a time span of 3 and 9 years, they would reclaim and they would be victorious again.
Fi bid'i sinin, yes. Fi bid'i sinin, they will be victorious. Go ahead.
Is there a repeat in history of what happened in the old Crimean War when they were defeated and they reclaimed it in 7 years?
This is a very difficult question. The Quran goes on to say, this is connected with Surah Rum of the Quran, the opening verses of Surah Rum. And while I cannot mention his name, the questioner, for security reasons, he is directing our attention to the beginning of Surah Rum. And in that opening passage of Surah Rum, Allah says, Lillahi al-amr min qabl wa min ba'd. Lillahi al-amr min qabl wa min ba'd. That Allah's command is going to be triumphant, will prevail on 2 occasions. On a former occasion and on a latter occasion. And it is quite possible, and Allah knows best, that the triumph of the Byzantine Empire over its rivals, which took place at that time, can then be repeated. Orthodox Christianity will again be triumphant with Allah's help on a subsequent occasion. This could be coming soon, yeah. One more question? The last one, eh? Oh no, we have 2 now. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute, you made a deal with me.
Yes, I just want to ask about you mentioned about Naqshbandi disciples.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if they are actually practicing the correct Quran.
Oh no, I am not going to speak about whether this group or that group or that group are good Muslims or not. I'm not walking down that road at all. If anybody does something right, even if his name is Nawaz Sharif, I will say it's right. Yes. And because the Naqshbandi, whether people like it or whether they don't, is irrelevant to me, absolutely irrelevant to me, your likes and your dislikes. if the Naqshbandi Sufis extend the hand of friendship to the Orthodox Christians in Syria to try to build friendship and reconciliation and alliance, it's time for me to say they're doing the right thing and you better follow them. Next question, please.
Assalamualaikum, Sheikh. I just would like to comment that I think Dukan will be caused by a meteorite crashing. Dukan?
Dukan, okay. Are you British?
No, I'm not. As I was saying, in my opinion, I think it will be caused by a meteorite crashing to Earth.
The Dukhan will be caused by a meteorite.
Yes.
Yeah?
Crashing to Earth.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Also, you mentioned about electronic.
Oh wait, you're asking two questions, huh?
No, it's just a comment.
A comment, okay.
Yeah, my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I need to understand because you mentioned we are going to go back into time, old times, where gold and silver will be used as the current money. How will that come about? Because we're now talking about the electronic money.
Yeah. When the US dollar collapses, the balloon bursts, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find 3 lectures on money, just delivered in Sitapak. The first was what is money in the Quran and Sunnah. The second was what is money in the world today. And the third is entitled Beyond the Petrodollar, an Islamic response to the bogus monetary system. Okay? And in that lecture we said Israel cannot claim to be a Khilafah state unless Israel is using gold and silver as money. When that day comes that Israel brings back gold and silver as money, I hope I'm not alive. May Allah take me away from the world, because the shame and the disgrace will be too great for me, for my heart. My heart will burst. That these people have to bring back dinar and dirham, while our people were eating biryani and going home to sleep. The shame and the disgrace will be too great. So I ask in that lecture that all those who hear my lecture, go and ask your scholars of Islam, wherever you can meet them. Even if you can't meet them in person, you can send an email to them and ask them politely so. We don't see this money in the Quran and Sunnah, no. The money we are now using, is it halal or is it haram? And we don't want a private answer. We want an answer that we can publish, okay? So you put some pressure on them. If they say we don't know, you can ask them, well, how long will you take? We want an answer. You can't remain silent forever. No, okay? In the meantime, if it is possible to have money which is redeemable in gold, like Ahmad Sukarno attempted in Indonesia, that's why they overthrew him, that the Indonesian rupiah would have been redeemable in gold, that you could go take it to some office and collect your gold, redeemable in gold, then the Indonesian rupiah would have been halal. It's like a check. You can cash the check, okay? It's redeemable in gold. Perhaps if that can be done, then that will be a solution to the problem. However, they cannot allow anyone to succeed. Because if one country were to succeed, it will bring down the whole monetary system. So they will wage war to prevent you. That's why they attacked Libya. They wage war to ensure that you do not establish a monetary system in which your money is redeemable in gold and silver. Okay? We said that an alternative could also be where you establish markets in which you use actual gold and silver for buying and selling. We just had Eidul Adha, Hari Raya Haji. And in Hari Raya Haji or Eidul Adha, you have to buy animals to sacrifice. So I don't know what you use, whether you use ringgit or rupiah or whatever. I use dinar and dirham. Yes, I bought my animal with dinar and dirham. Yeah, and then we had the sacrifice. If we could encourage this is a micro response. Before the war takes place, okay, make sure you have at least 100 dirhams at home. It may be 2 dirhams a day for food, 2 dirhams a day, depending on the size of your family. So at least for 50 days you have food. Make sure you have at least 100 dirhams at home. And if you can have some dinars as well, alhamdulillah, that's even better, okay? This is another response that you have. Finally, we said that one of the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is that in the end time, the earth will vomit from its liver columns of gold and silver. The likelihood is that this will take place in Indonesia. Yeah, because of the volcanoes of Indonesia, they call a ring of fire. And these volcanoes are all already producing gold in Java, okay? When that gold comes into the world, that gold can then be used to fight the monetary system. Yeah, I think that's enough for today. Please study this book. We're going to put on my website a comment section where you can write your comments on this book, and we'll put it on our website, inshallah.
All right, thank you so much for all the questions and comments.